Hey everyone, how are you doing today? I hope you all are having a blessed and safe day, and I am going to be reading in Matthew 23, 1 through 15. And then I will go to verse 25 through 29, and then 37 through 39. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries, and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the uppermost rooms at feasts, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the markets, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But be not ye called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For ye neither go in yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye compass sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he is made, ye make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. And now I am going to read in verse 25 now. 25 through 29. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. Thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are like unto white sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. Even so ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Because ye build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous. And I'll continue on to read verse 30 now. sepulchres of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. And now verse 37 through 39. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets, and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not? Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till ye shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. So the scribes and the Pharisees, they thought they were so righteous, and that they thought that they were so righteous. And not only that they thought that they were righteous, but they were preaching to men that they have preached to men that it is their works to be saved, that it is their works is how that they are saved. But what the Pharisees don't understand is that they are going by their own works, and that they are not saved by works. They are saved by believing on Christ. So when it says in verse 37, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets, and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and you would not? So, So the Jews had a chance, or Jesus has told them that to be saved is by believing on Christ, believing on Him. But they did not want to hear it. They did not have ears to hear and have eyes to see, and they didn't have an understanding heart. So they decided to go by their own righteousness to be saved. And they even tell others, that they need to be like them, that they need works to be saved, when that is not the truth. That is not how we are saved, nor is it how we can become holy. That's what the Jews thought. But they were far from the truth. It was not the truth to what they were preaching to them. And for example, like when they were I think in John, they were talking about, I think it's either in John or Luke, or I don't know, but the Jews were being hypocrites because they were telling others that they should not work on the Sabbath. But what did Jesus tell them? That they themselves loose their ox and their ass on the Sabbath and give them water. So they were hypocrites. It was hypocrisy that they were telling them, They were casting burdens on others when they themselves would not, when they themselves don't even follow it. In Matthew, in verse 4, it says, "For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers." In verse 3, "All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not ye after their works, for they say and do not." So right there, the Jews, when it was the Sabbath, the Jews were telling them that they cannot do anything on the Sabbath. And again, Jesus reminded the Jews that they themselves don't even follow the Sabbath themselves, and they have broken the law themselves, because they have loosed their ox or their ass on the Sabbath, and they have given their ox and their ass water. So they were giving them water. So they themselves say that that others need to keep the Sabbath when they themselves have not. So it is hypocrisy. So they were being hypocritical. And now, let's see. Excuse me. Now in verse, let's see. In verse 23, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone." So they excuse me. So in James, what in verse 23 reminds me of in Matthew is James 2. That reminds me of James 2. Now, James 2. Let's see. James 2. Ten through 11. Well, I'm sorry. Let's see. Wait. 7 through 11. "Do not they blaspheme that worthy name by the which ye are called? If ye fulfill the royal law, according to the scripture, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, ye do well. But if ye have respect to persons, ye commit sin, and are convinced of the law as transgressors." Excuse me, guys, sorry. In verse 10, "For whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. For he that said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill. Now, if thou commit no adultery, yet if thou kill, thou art become a transgressor of the law. And let's see. I think I'll read in verse 12. So speak ye, and so do, as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. So now going back to Matthew now. Going back, to Matthew 23. Matthew 23. Matthew, I think 23. Yeah, 23. 23. So right there, what I read to you is that in Matthew, these ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. So James, it was saying that if they if they stumble in one point, they are guilty of all. So the Jews were trying to keep the law, but the Jews themselves have broken the law themselves, because they have loosed their ox in their ass, and they gave them water. So they themselves have broken the law. They may have done other things in the law, but they have broken the others. They may have done one part of the law, but in other parts of the law, they have broken it. And they have left it undone because they did not keep the law. They have broken the law. The Jews were not law keepers. They were law breakers. So they were being hypocrites now. And in verse 37, let's see. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, not verse 37, but in verse 27 through 25 through 29. So they were making themselves beautiful on the outside, but within them they were full of hypocrisy and iniquity. And in verse 26, oh no, I'm sorry, not verse 26, but in verse 27, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are like unto white sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward. So they have appeared beautiful on the outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. So like what it says in verse 28, they were full of hypocrisy and iniquity. So they were beautiful on the outside, but they were filled with hypocrisy and iniquity. And in verse 26, thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. So now, that reminds me of John 15 now. John 15. John 15. Verses, let's see. Verse 3. Now it's not the same, but it is similar to it. John 15 verse 3. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. And there's another verse in here where, let's see, where they were washing their feet, where Jesus was washing their feet, and he was telling, Peter was telling Jesus. Now, I don't remember the whole thing, but Peter wanted, when Jesus was washing Peter's feet, Peter said to Jesus, not only my feet, but my head. And then Jesus says, let's see, Jesus said that, or something like that. I know that, I'm sure you know what I mean by that, but, or what verse I'm talking about, but I can't really find it. But so anyway, going back to Matthew now, 23. So now, let's see, 23. I'll just go 37 now. So they wanted to go by their own righteousness. They wanted to be holy by doing their own works. But they did not want to believe on Christ. How often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not? So, again, they could have believed on Christ, and they could have been holy because of him, and they could have been saved, and they could have been justified and sanctified. But they did not want that. They wanted to go by their own righteousness, and they wanted to go by their own works to show men their works. And so that is pretty much it. So to be saved is by believing on Christ. Believing that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures, and he was buried, and he rose again the third day according to the scriptures. So once someone believes on Christ, they are justified, and they are sanctified. And they do not need anything. They do not need any works to be saved. only by believing the death, burial, and resurrection. That is all that needs to, that is all that is how we are saved, is by believing on Christ. You don't need to be circumcised. You don't need to do bear fruit. You don't have to do anything. Only believe. And so that is how we are saved, is by believing the death, burial, and resurrection. And now I'm going to see if I can find the verse now. I'm going to see if I can find the verse. So Matthew 27, Matthew 27. I think that's the I think that is the verse. Well, no, I don't know, but I will find it, and I will put it on the description box and on my community page. And so yeah, so I hope you all have a blessed and safe day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.